Hello, friends. This is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's August 28th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday edition of Weaponized News. We have a special guest on the line today, so I'm going to try to get through the intro here very quickly. Our guest is Teace Snyder. I'm going to go over all of his conspiracy synergy work, and I had his bio up here, too many tabs. He's a writer, director, producer, editor, actor, illustrator, host of Conspiracy Synergy, anti-establishment, aficionado, etc., etc. He's a big, of course, a big government guy. So we're gonna, just kidding. Okay, what do we got? We're gonna go over some current events. What do we got today? They want to crank up the police state martial law here in America. There's going to be, it looks like, confrontations between Trump administration and Democrat governors, Democrat cities. They're setting the stage for that to happen, rolling out the National Guard to states and cities that they're not welcome. And so we're going to see how that sorts out. What else do we got? The UN, even we're waiting the UN and all these countries to come denounce the aardvark land and the genocide. You got the UN today, Antonio Gutierrez denouncing the genocide over there, denouncing the siege, the famine, according to UN definitions. We got that. We got some public health news, and we got some of this crazy technocracy. I don't even know what you call it. Fifth generational warfare, I guess they're rolling out this electromagnetic frequency weapon that will zap the drones right out of the sky. And they say it's has non-ionizing radiation, so it's safe to humans. Call me skeptical. I don't believe them. They'll shoot humans with it right now. And who knows what it'll do to you, zap you. A lot of aardvark genocide news. Don't be mean to aardvarks. We got they're rolling out an app. You can report anti-aardvarkism, anti-septicism. And of course, we're going to report the aardvarks in aardvark land that are protesting the genocide and to, of course, release the hostages in the war. And so we should probably report them for anti-septic behavior in aardvark land, even though none of it makes any sense, but the lies will continue and the propaganda will continue. So with that, let me quickly blast through this day in history and we'll get to our guest and go over all of this insanity. Everything's fine though. On this day of August 28th, going back to the year 476, our official history tells us it's the end of the Western Roman Empire. But did it end or did it just change names and go through a rebranding like Cracker Barrel unsuccessfully? I think their rebranding was much more successful for the Western Roman Empire. Orestes, father of Emperor Romulus, Augustulus, is captured and executed by Odysee and his followers on this day, effectively ending, that we're told, the Western Roman Empire. And then fast forward quickly through history. I found this one interesting. In the year 1830, on this day, the first American-built locomotive, Tom Thumb, the name of it, races a horse-drawn car from the Stockton to the Stoke Stagecoach Company from Baltimore to Elcott Mills. Due to mechanical problems, the horse wins. In 1833, on this day, Britain's Slavery Abolishment Act gains royal assent. In 1916, Germany declares war on Romania, and Italy declares war on Germany. Big moves there in World War I. In 1963, Martin Luther King gave his famous I Have a Dream speech today in Washington, D.C. And in 1980, we saw the first use of magnetic resonance imaging, MRI machine, to scan the human body at Adrian Royal Infirmary in Scotland. And now you get a free MRI at the airport from the TSA if you want. In 1982, on this day, the first gay games are held in San Francisco. And to more current times, last year, 2024, on this date, the U.S. completes its largest dam removal project on the Klamath River at the California-Oregon border, advocated for by tribal nations to restore the salmon population. And then today, 2025, Amtrak launches its next-gen ACE law train sets for servicing the U.S. Northeast Corridor. Premium high-speed trains between Washington, D.C. and Boston are capable of speeds up to 160 miles per hour. And with that, we'll play the segue. Here is President of the UN, Antonio Guterres. The levels of death and destruction in Gaza are without parallel in recent times. Let's use this video segue and we'll bring on our guest and get to all the news and conspiracies for you.
Gaza is piled with rubble, piled with bodies, and piled with examples of what may be serious violations of international law. Hostages taken by Hamas and other groups must be released, and the atrocious treatment they have been forced to endure must stop. Civilians must be protected. And let's be clear, the levels of death and destruction in Gaza are without parallel in recent times. Famine is no longer a looming possibility, it's a present-day catastrophe. People are dying from hunger. Families are being torn apart by displacement and despair. Pregnant women are facing unimaginable risks, and the systems that sustain life, food, water, healthcare, have been systematically dismantled. These are the facts on the ground, and they are the result of deliberate decisions that defy basic humanity.
Teace, how you doing this Thursday?
It's another day in the weirdest timeline imaginable where we're just trying to get it across to the average individual, and I'm doing my utmost to stay sane. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. I just had my air conditioning system upgraded, so I'm doing okay. I was sweating pretty bad there for a few weeks. So what do we make of this from the UN? Antiseptic behavior out of the UN president there, Guterres, right?
Yeah, I mean, I never really know what to make about the propaganda juggling that they do. They'll always say a lot of things and then do a lot of nothing, and there's no significant intervention into the region, which signifies that it's all one big club, and they can say whatever they want, but they sure as won't stop it in any real way. And so it just goes on unimpeded by and large.
Your mic's kind of scratchy. I don't know if that's me. I don't know if that's my headphones or your mic.
Scratch. Word.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've been following it, but all these European nations have condemned the genocide, supposedly UK, France, Germany, all the big dogs over there, and they're going to vote for Palestinian statehood come this upcoming UN General Assembly meeting. So it looks like there's going to be a big confrontation. Of course, the United States is going to veto any vote for Palestinian statehood, the two-state solution. All of this is coming up. So does the UN, as of course we know, they're full speed ahead implementing Agenda 2030. Do they have to say these things to placate the public, to prevent revolt? Because like you say, at the end of the day, they are all in the same globalist one world government club.
Yeah, if you give people the illusion that there's some form of representation, they'll continue to pander to the system as if it's there to represent them. So it's just optics.
It's sad. It's very sad. Um, wow. Okay, so let's go to your site, Conspiracy Synergy. You know, when you had to talk about conspiracy, and you're hard to find, right? Because you're shadow banned, throttled, delisted everywhere. But you are an independent writer, director, producer, editor, actor, illustrator, and host of your own show there, Conspiracy Synergy. You want to tell us a little bit about that? How'd you get into all this? Why don't you trust the mainstream narrative? They would never lie to us, would they?
Yeah, no, that's never, not even once. Everything they say is 100% believable, and we should all believe it without ever questioning anything. No, and unfortunately, I always kind of an intuitive way, going back to the compulsory school system and how much I hated being in school, understood that there was something very much wrong with the world that we were being grown in. So I was someone who was like a C student, even though I'm technically a genius, and I kind of just squeaked by. I was writing books
You're
in my spare.
technically a genius.
Yeah, no, I am. It's one of those things where it's like I don't think
You
I
still
even
got a
have it.
scratchy mic. I don't know if it's my headphones or your mic. I think it's your.
If I just literally hold it up, is this okay?
Nah, it's still scratchy. Could be my headphones.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's not that way for the people listening. But basically, the point is that I've always known that something's wrong, and over the course of my life, it's been a gradual refinement of studying in order to understand how deep that goes, how bad it is, what's actually happening, not just my personal opinion. And over the course of my personal evolution, that's taken me from being someone who wrote books in my spare time to cope with being in the public school system full time, to then eventually studying this in depth to try and infuse it with my media training to then create a variety of different short films, documentaries, presentations that give...
The audience, sorry, man, the audience is saying it's scratchy. Sounds terrible.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to try switching it to the other mic and then back. We'll see, hopefully.
All right. Thanks, Denver and Chloe, for letting me know there. I didn't know if it was my headphones, but well, we get the audio issues sorted out. Yeah, what else do we got? We got that. Here's the UN. They're putting out their memes.
Can you do the mic check now? Is it okay?
Yeah, that sounds way better.
Okay, I turned it off and on again. That's it. So nothing weird otherwise. So yeah, one of those things. Okay,
I guess it's on the record now here. The levels of death and destruction in Gaza are without parallel in recent times. And that's a meme right from the United Nations. So there you have it.
Yeah. So yeah, long story short for me, it's like intuitively I understood this going back a very long time. And then I wanted to create media that allowed me to explain my firsthand study going back 15 years or more now, which isn't just me on my own. It's me deferring to people who have been on this road preceding me, like Corbett and Passio and Richard Grove and a bunch of wonderful names who have been trying to figure out what's been going on, to then sort of amalgamate a composite of their various different thoughts and insights to then put that forward in a lighthearted way. Because the thing that I noticed firsthand is that people tend to care more about feelings than they do about facts. So you need to resonate in a way in which they're able to line up with a fact, even if it's uncomfortable. And a way in which that can conventionally be done is through fictional storytelling. If you think about what going to a movie is, we'll watch a lot of things in a film that if it were in real life, we wouldn't be able to handle. We might run the opposite direction. But once it's put in a particular modality of storytelling or of presentation, then it's a little bit more palatable for the average individual. And so that's kind of been my MO. How can I go out there and show people the deepest, darkest sides of the world without scaring them so much that they tune out?
You're aware, being a film director, producer, writer, that you're aware of the mind control that can be used, right, in fictional movies where they put the audience in a state of suspended disbelief because it's fiction, and then the audience allows the ideas that are in that fictional movie to more easily go into their mind and corrupt them, you could say, or just give them that idea rather than a straight newscast. People put up their guard, like, hey, wait a minute, let me, I got my guard up. But do you use these techniques to put your audience in a state of suspended disbelief to put in the good ideas rather than the corrupt ideas.
Yeah, so de facto, automatically, when you're watching something on a screen, your brain waves are altering, and they're putting you in something that's closer to a dream-like state, wherein you're more receptive to information.
The flicker rate, right, on your television.
I mean, you can. I wouldn't know where to point to pin it down, because at a certain point, it's actually a convergence between different variables. Because you can look at something like film, which is 24 frames per second, versus that which is basically like digitized, it's more like 30 frames per second. And then you could argue it's flicker rate on top of that, just like the raw exposure to something in that medium of interaction. So it's stacking a number of different things.
It's more, yeah, it's more than one, more than the flicker rate, obviously, but that's like physically like putting you under some type of trance.
Yeah, and that's so automatically by doing it, that's already happening. And then you can understand that there are like color palettes that have inherent meaning. There are symbols that retain subconscious information. There's a variety of different things that more or less equates to and is in fact occultism. So the question
is, they're using all this, right? The big Hollywood producers, yep, all the mainstream that you're seeing, they know all this, and they're using these techniques to manipulate the mass public mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so on its most complex level, it's likely infused with X technology, which is a subliminal kind of influencer effect, not necessarily fitting the way in which we would conceive of that, but likely something that extends well beyond it that we're not even privy to the tech specs of yet. So that's likely going on. But on a very simple level, you need to understand that brainwashing can be nothing other than just repetition. So if you repeat something enough, and that's where you get into like the Nazi propaganda idea, if make a lie big, say it often enough, and people will believe it. That's very much been a truism of how we have been so deeply saturated in lies. And that's what has defined our entire lives. We have grown up in Plato's crib, as it were, so that we're never able to get beyond those bars. Instead, we just play with whatever toys they give us, and we sort of just fantasize about the idea of being fully grown. And if you take someone out of that environment and thrust them into the real world, they implode because they aren't up to the actual requirements of what it is to be a fully matured and fully realized adult. And a big part of the way in which they have infiltrated that on the public is saturating us in constant media exposure, utilizing a variety of different things that we simply don't even know are there.
Don't even know they're there. Do you? So you do use some of these techniques in your productions, correct?
Oh yeah, no, like, so when you understand like a lot of what editing is it's sort of like a ballet of eye movement. You can think of like the match cut from when the bone is thrown up in the air in 2001 and then it becomes the spacecraft. That gives you a direct merging of one frame to the next, even though you're jumping across thousands of years. So it's a kind of way in which you can enter into a dream state and impregnate on the other end the viewing audience. And then they'll walk around thinking of it as their own thought, when really it's just something that was suggested to them so much that they thought it. That doesn't make it theirs. It makes it that which enchanted them to the point where they create their own enchantment, because then they'd actually have to stop and think, and they're not so good at that. And that's where the compulsory school system steps in. And at a certain point, you realize this is a full spectrum dominance convergence of things, from ancient psychologists, profoundly intelligent people who...
Wait. We got some more scratching. Sorry, man.
I'm not doing anything with my bike here. I can unplug it again and put it back. So I don't know what's going on with that.
You were on a roll there. We gotta pick up where you took off there. The ancient psychologists, probably the same people that were running the Western Roman Empire back in the year 476 that we just talked about. Go ahead. Now no sound. No sound. I got video. You're good on video. No sound, no. Okay. He's adjusting the sound. I don't know what's the sound issues here today, but so I want to get into, once we get him back on with the good audio, we had it going there for a second, going down conspiracy synergy and talking about how all these groups, these music groups, the very large majority, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that you just don't know about. They're not musical geniuses. A lot of it looks like it's engineered by military intelligence. Yeah, try to log back in, log out, log back in. Maybe he's gonna try to reset. But I want to talk to him about because I think it was his first or second episode of Conspiracy Synergy. He referenced Dave McGowan and Inside Laurel Canyon. And I have never even seen, I've heard Dave McGowan obviously mentioned many times on many different shows and his works, but I never actually saw an interview with him until today. I went and watched it. It's over here on the Bitchute for those interested. This right here. I'll put the link in Weaponized News Substack, but here he is, Dave McGowan, on this show. And of course, they give us the commercial on Bitchute there. But anyway, hopefully we can get him back soon. I wanted to tie that in to this other documentary. Let's hope it works this time. He's back on with audio. The good audio. No audio. There you go. For a second. No. No audio. There you go. I got you now.
Okay, but I changed browsers altogether, so hopefully it'd be okay this time. I'm good. All right. Sorry, everyone. Like, I don't the technology sabotage. It's never happened before, so whatever. Yeah, as far as
it would happen here. Oh, I was just going to say, pick back up where you were on a roll there for a second.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so really just when you get into what this is, and a good book to get into it for anyone who hasn't already been privy to just how deep the rabbit hole goes. MK Ultra, Ritual Abuse and Mind Control, Tools of Domination for the Nameless Religion. Now, emphasis on that idea, the nameless religion, another word for it is the old religion. The front-end organization that they utilize is Satanism, but that's kind of just like a bunch of theater kids who are LARPing the idea of being edgy because they hate Christian dogma and stuff like that. They can still be like really terrible people, as can anyone who's in an organized religion setting who doesn't really ultimately understand natural law and the way things work in this realm. So these are people who have set up a variety of different halfway measures in order to keep us from growing up past a certain level. And at a certain point, Satanism refines into that which is well beyond the constraints of Satanism itself. It's the old religion. It's the nameless religion. It's the same thing that can infiltrate every other
mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's mindset more.
It's the force of involution. Yeah. So it's that which is antithetical to the well-being of the evolution of the species at large. It's trying to keep us in base consciousnness, in essence.
It's more than it's that mindset of that's how the controllers, social engineers, have that mindset rather than the kid with the pentagram and the black robe in the woods sacrificing a goat or something.
Yeah, so I mean, they can use like energy harvesting rituals on a low level and get people to basically go along with things that they don't fully understand. You can think of factory farming as a large-scale industrial satanic ritual sacrifice going on 24/7 that we then imbibe and we think nothing of. But that actually has an effect on us on a cellular and an energetic level that compounds the higher up you go. And so these are people who have created large cybernetic moral relativist systems of supremacy that we are born into and we never question because we only look at things on a superficial level. It goes
we're stuck in that cave. We're stuck in Plato's cave.
Yeah, very much. And then a lot of people are basically, they've gotten out of the chains and they've gone to the back of the room and they're patting themselves on the back while they're watching everyone else suffer like they've accomplished something rather than getting out of the motherfucker and actually building an alternative to get everyone to that instead. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be saving the day rather than just one-upping or dunking on each other in an internet form of echo chambers, which is largely what the conspiratorial movement has become. And that's not of our own choosing, of our own volition, so much as being fragmented and atomized till we're not able to synergistically come together and work in a capacity that extricates us from a reactive place. Because a lot of the time they'll do the psyop and we'll react to it. We're not setting the conversation. We're always in a place where we're just trying to deconstruct the conversation that they've set. And that's by design. We're being played all the time.
But the problem, it feels like, though, everybody, like you say, in the, whatever you want to call it, just independent research field, independent reporting field. Everybody's independent, and so that makes it that much harder to synergize, because everybody has their own ideas, their own projects, all this, and so that makes it that much harder than the united front of corporate media, which we know are all in lockstep, pushing the agenda of the establishment.
Yeah, no, exactly it. And to a certain extent, change is granular, and so are actual organic movements before they're co-opted and swept up by larger conglomerates. And so it's one of those things where if you're thinking of some sort of Hollywood movie, which is really just predictive programming, as if that's what it's going to look like to achieve success, it doesn't work like that. You need to think of if you're literally able to plant a seed in another person's mind that is conducive to them eventually opening their mind, that's a success. If you look at people removing their participation from the slavery system, that's a success. And so at a certain point, when we stop feeding these various different systems, they simply fail to exist and are eviscerated in our absence. And so once you understand that success is very different than how we've been taught to think of it, in like a squaring off in a battle royale kind of way, then you're able to get behind the idea that you are personally much more powerful than you ever realized. And simply going out and speaking the truth and knowing that truth and aligning yourself through right livelihood means more than anything in order to be able to change people's lives.
Taking personal responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easier to blame whoever for my problems than look in the mirror and say it was myself.
So much. And that's really fundamentally it. A lot of people, like, I can go back to myself. One of the things that I used to do is, like, because I started off as a 9/11 truth activist, and I'd wear an American flag as a blindfold and a shirt that said 9/11 was an inside job, and I'd stand at ground zero by myself for between 6 to 8 hours handing out DVDs that people could take at their leisure. That's just me taking the initiative to do something on my own, whether or not other protesters were around to help me. Now, if you stop and think,
how were you received by the public?
It depended on the year. The first year I was there, people were kind of just like ignoring me. The 9th anniversary, I got rid of 100 DVDs in less than 5 minutes, and every single person was thanking me. Then the 10th year came around, and that was like, and I literally have on my YouTube channel me being pulled out of the crowd, along with everyone else wearing 9/11 was an inside job shirts, being given personal police escort multiple blocks back to then be put in a pen. So that gives you a sense of the controlled photo op that is that kind of, let's say, anniversary for an event. And they do that because anniversaries sort of cement in our minds the official story. They'll roll it back around. They had Barry Soetoro, who we know as Barack Obama, on site in order to be able to give his announcement, to be able to put everyone to sleep and get them to fall in line with the official story. And they do that thing over and over and over again. So depending on the year, it was either something that was stamped out by the NYPD, which is a $6 billion operational or annual budget and are in essence just a criminal cartel because of it, versus other years when you're allowed to kind of be there and it's meaningful to the people who are starting to become aware. And so there are these cycles of awareness, and they understand when we're in one and when we're about to go into another one. And that's why psyops are usually placed along the way, so that anytime we're allowed to get traction, they kneecap you and they stop our action. So the point I'm getting at with
look over there.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things so that, like, I can't remember how I got onto the point in the first place, but
about how you started, you were saying you're a 9/11 truth activist.
No, I know that, but that was to make a point about another point with a question before it. But it's sorry, everyone. It was questions on questions that I got lost in my own explanation. So do forgive that.
I kind of started going down these rabbit holes that same way. We had Richard Gage, architects for and engineers for 9/11 Truth, came to Fresno and gave it was like his first documentary. I forget even the name of it. Around 2006, I want to say, something like this, and played it over here at the Veteran Center in Clovis.
Was it Blueprint for Destruction?
Like its very first one, okay. 2006, 7, something like this, and filled up the whole. It was information no one had ever heard before. Filled up this whole Veteran Center with, like, I don't know, 100, 150 people. Very important, informative presentation. He got on local Fox News here. I think that clip is still on the interwebs. You can find it of him on Fox 26, our local news. talking about it because we had an inside man at the studio there that was a 9/11 truther guy and got him on there. But my point in telling that story is a bunch of people woke up, were what I forget the phrase you used, noticing whatever, becoming more aware about 9/11, asking questions like this. Anyway, after his presentation, we started a group. We're gonna rally. We're gonna put our information together. We're gonna take it to our congressman. Was our idea, because our congressman at that time was Devin Nunes, who's now the CEO of Trump's Truth Social. Anyway, we were very naive at that time. Congress just didn't know. And Devin Nunes is a good Portuguese farmer over here in the Central Valley, and he's a good old boy. And if he knew what we just learned from this presentation, he would demand congressional investigations and on and on. We had these, ideas of justice in our mind. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, after that presentation, a bunch of people were fired up around here. We said, let's have another meetup, and then we're going to organize and go talk to the authorities and get something done. And so we had this meetup at Starbucks, and there's probably 100 people showed up. I don't know, 75, 100, a lot, right? A lot. We had to take it to the parking lot because there's so many people. We couldn't even be inside the Starbucks. And here comes some agent provocateurs to it. Two guys come and they say, hey, let's shoot some cops. Let's blow up the federal building downtown. That's going to show them. And we're like, wait a minute. We can't be doing that. We don't want to go do violence against the government. We want to tell the government, our elected representatives, what we just learned, and then they're going to go do action on our behalf, is what we believe. And it didn't work out that way at all.
Yeah, no, that's a great example of how those firsthand organic initiatives get stepped on very quickly by agent provocateurs. And also for people who don't understand how these various different leverage systems work, the people who are in the intergenerational satanic pedophile cabal basically have enough dirt on one another so that they have people in positions of power, so that if you ever try and go through the system, you're at a certain point going to be up against someone who is going to these ceremonial events, and they're going to make sure that it doesn't go your way, and they'll stack the case to frame you or to destroy your life, to leverage your friends and family against you, because they have enough of a stranglehold on the system that we rely on to get us in a state of stasis, so that if you try and tell anyone, it's so brutal and horrific that it seems unbelievable. And it's just like, oh no, you got to be making that up because there's no way. And that's dissuasion. That's when they try and dissuade you from looking into something because it seems so insane that it couldn't possibly be real. But once you understand how the real world works, it's so insane that normal seems like, well, I know it's an inverted world. I'll just put it that way. Normal seems crazy to me. To normies, we seem crazy to them.
Satanic inversion of reality.
Yeah, very much.
So what we did, and of course those agent provocateurs ran off a bunch of people. They didn't come back to the next meeting because they're like, these are crazy people, and we don't want no part of going and shooting cops and blowing up buildings and all this, which I believe was, and if they would have had some useful idiots there that wanted to do it, they would have walked them right into, life in prison, probably for doing these stupid acts of violence. But we wound up getting it together. We created a binder. We had, I believe, the Richard Gage DVD, and we took that to our congressman, Devin Nunes at the time. Of course, we never got to see him, but we got laughed out of his office by his staff there. They just said, you're crazy people, and we don't want to, we're not even going to give it to the congressman. And so they literally laughed in our face. And we're like, no, here's all these facts. If you would just take a look like we did. And they just laughed in our face. And we're like, okay. So that's how it really works when you're trying to civically engage your government here now.
Well, isn't that I can't remember the exact saying. It's like there are 3 stages of truth being accepted. The first is that it's ridiculed. The next is that it's vehemently attacked. And then it's accepted as self-evident. So anytime that you're at the forefront of that, prepare to be ridiculed, attacked, and then eventually after they've tried to either attempt to destroy your life or successfully have done it, then they'll build a statue in memorial to pretend that you've accomplished more than you actually have. And that by that time, they'll be on to the next psyop. So a lot of it is getting people to wake up to the depths of how bad all of this is. And that's so
it's difficult. Institutionalized lying, systemic institutionalized lying. We have Todd Beamer park over here dedicated, and every year on 9/11 they do a big ceremony over at the park because this guy was allegedly from Fresno, Todd Beamer, if you remember that guy, on what was it, Flight 93, the one that crashed in Pennsylvania, right? Allegedly.
Yeah.
He was allegedly the hero of it, that stopped the jihadists with the box cutter, is the official story we're told. And try to go to that and start questioning people. They freak out and start telling them some 9/11 truth stuff, and they just don't want to. They're happy in their official narrative story, and they're sticking to it. And you'll trigger them big time, probably to violent attack against you.
Yeah, no, that's where they've situated people, and they are dangerous to themselves and one another unless you have the skill sets in every different capacity in order to deal with the immaturity of most of humanity.
Oh man. Okay, back to your show, Conspiracy Synergy. I was listening to a few episodes today. Everybody should go listen to Conspiracy Synergy.
Oh, wait. Did you listen to them or did you watch them?
Well, I was watching and listening.
Oh, okay, because they're very visual. So for anyone who hasn't seen them yet, it's like I would strongly recommend that you watch them. But you can listen to them, but there's a lot going on visually when you're watching them.
You're using some of that Hollywood mind control. But here it is. Let's plug you conspiracysynergy.com and go to episodes there. And the one that stuck out to me, because I heard a lot of people on these shows talking about Dave McGowan, right, and his book about inside Laurel Canyon and the whole music scene there that seems to be from the 60s. It seems to all be engineered by military intelligence, is what it appears. All these big music acts, not all of them, but a lot of popular ones that came out of the 60s seem to all be part of this same small clique inside Laurel Canyon.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's shocking and to say the least, that it destroys your idea that these are some type of musical geniuses. That I don't even know what I thought, but it definitely, when you hear the songs, it makes you think, well, what the hell? This is mind control coming from the government is what I think now. Even though they're good, catchy tunes, no doubt about that. But it's just it puts a whole different frame in my mind when I hear these songs now, as it did before I knew any of this information.
Oh, totally. I mean, dark occultists can actually be very talented artists, but what they do is they keep other people from becoming known, so that they're the ones who are in the limelight all the time, and then they extinguish competition, they support and propagate their own, and then they go out and either buy out or undermine anyone who would be a rival. And so you can think of that time period as the gradual burgeoning and emergence of a genuine consciousness movement. But then the consciousness movement got hijacked by like the merry pranksters who were going to these various different venues doing a crap ton of drugs, and they eventually became what we now think of as hippies. And so that was taking a legitimate building of responsible expansion of consciousness and instead creating the view that we have of it as a bunch of reckless, deranged, drug-addled hippies who are just trying to destroy the establishment. And so it is that kind of commandeering, co-opting, and hijacking of legitimate movements so that they're never able to get any traction or get off the ground. And if they do, the lawnmower comes down, and then you'll see something like Kent State.
They'll run COINTELPRO operations on you, put in undercover, set you up, try to get you to go do violence, and so on and so on. So he names a bunch. I don't know if you're familiar with this documentary, but this is another one that ties into it. Have you heard of the Wrecking Crew?
Can't say I have. No.
The Wrecking Crew are these. It's almost the same thing. Maybe not. They don't tie in military intelligence and how all these people are related to it, but the Wrecking Crew are like, what are they? Professional. What do they call them? Just studio musicians, right? Who are actually made all these songs for the Beach Boys, Phil Spector, Frank Sinatra, Nancy Sinatra, Sonny and Cher, Elvis, the Monkees, on and on it goes. All these big acts they didn't write the music, they didn't compose the music, they didn't arrange the music, they didn't do anything. Basically, their pretty faces, and most of them didn't even know how to play an instrument. And this documentary, The Wrecking Crew, goes over it all. One of the very real talented people that they did credit here was Glenn Campbell. Apparently, that guy really was a musical genius, and he's behind all kind of stuff. They never even give him credit or anything. But The Wrecking Crew, I will put that documentary in Weaponized News Substack. Everybody could see it. Just go to YouTube, search The Wrecking Crew. It'll blow your mind because you'll be like, damn, my favorite band is just totally fake staged, like the Monkees. We know the Monkees, right? Because that's admitted that they're a fake band. But literally all of these, not to say they didn't have talent, but they definitely did not, they're not musical geniuses as you would think.
It's a really cool point to bring to the forefront, like who actually creates this stuff. I postulate that moving even further back into time, because if you think of like Beethoven, the ninth, the dun 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 dun, that's actually a bird call. So he heard it in nature, and then he took it and he put it into a sonata. And so you have to stop and wonder, okay, depending on how long this has been going on, have different civilizations or notations and culture actually had certain rhythms that are retained in a deeper kind of nostalgia that is buried in our subconscious?
And they know that the dark occultists know this, how to program the human mind.
Yeah. So you got to wonder, are they really actually just re-releasing things that had a foothold in a different time? Because Monica Perez, at one point, we were on Union of the Unwanted together, and she was saying that the actual translation for the quote from the Rothschilds of give me the control of a money supply and I care not who makes its laws, she was saying that it was actually give me control of the songs and I care not who makes the laws. So that gets you into the idea of, okay, is this more harmonics? Is it more something that is melodic, that we're actually just going out there and falling in a line with a particular tempo that's laid for us without realizing that that's how things are actually played on us? I don't know the answer to a lot of these questions, but a lot of what trying to navigate the conspiratorial realm is figuring out the scope of things. And the more in which you zoom out and try and analyze history itself, it's just like, oh my God, it's such a mess that it becomes your entire life to try and deconstruct and analyze at that certain point. Yeah.
They know what they're doing, obviously, right? Because they're fully in control and the masses are asleep. So obviously, every different level, all five senses, every which way possibly, they know how to play the humans here. Now.
Yeah, and they even go to an extrasensory extent, such that if you're starting to let's say blossom out of the constraints of the normative perceptual apertures that we're all afforded in life, and you're starting to enter into some precognition or different psi abilities, which are very real things. And for anyone who wants a book on that, I'd recommend Real Magic by Dean Radin. That's going into like how this is Six Sigma proven results that are repeatable and verifiable. They're just a ubiquitous undercurrent of the species, but they're stamped out because we exist in this slave state infrastructure, and it's discouraged to try and do anything more. So they actually have everything for all of our senses the way we conventionally think of them. And for anyone who's starting to go outside of that, you'll probably be thrown in an insane asylum, even if you're right about the things that you're saying. And they'll have all these other contingencies to try and keep us within very narrow margins.
You'll be drugged up, called insane, maybe even killed. What do you think about the idea? Why? Because I've thought of this researching. Why are there bands with a really catchy, great tune and they're one-hit wonders? Like, did they not sell their soul to the devil and said, "Hey, I'm not going along with this"? Like, what do you think's up with that? Why they're, because you're like, hey, these guys just made a great song. Why couldn't they make another one? And they're one-hit wonders. You never hear from them again. What do you think's up with that?
Yeah, you got to wonder. I mean, some things, it's like it can be really difficult to make great music. So that's one thing in and of itself. And maybe you do it once and that was really all that was in you. And you got to wonder how much of this is something that's fostered and fomented from criminal cartels that are the determinant of what you're privy to in your own like conscious expansion. So it's like, where do ideas come from? It seems like it's a stupid question, but at the same time, you really got to like pontificate on something like that. If you're smoking a joint, is that your idea? Did you tap into something else? So it's like there are all these qualifying variables for how we think of things, where they come from, what they're supported by, if they're able to make it into the mainstream. I've heard, and I cannot verify this necessarily, that some of the contingencies are either, you're selling your soul, you're sacrificing a family member, you're going to die at a young age, or you're going to transition transition one of your kids. You know, so there's one of these things where it's like, what are the different qualifiers or contingencies that are put into place as speed bump barometers so that some people will hit one and they're out of commission.
Or some people in the chat, Welchman said Jamestown or Jonestown would be very successful today.
Yeah. When you understand that they also had people there with like machine guns that were enforcing the idea that they're supposed to drink the Kool-Aid, it becomes a much more like complicated event. And even one of McGowan's books that we were talking about earlier, going into like weird scenes in the canyon, which is his book talking about Laurel Canyon, he wrote another one called Program to Kill, and that goes into how the entire like serial killer phenomena that we experienced for 30 years was literally just front men to take the fall for occult ritual murders that were being done by the intelligence apparatus. So a lot of how we view this kind of stuff is just on the surface.
That's good stuff right there. That's good stuff. Just front men to take the fall for ritualistic murders.
Yeah.
Ruckus says that the Paul McCartney died. The real Paul McCartney died in a car crash, and they replaced him with a lookalike. May very well be. What's name? Quincy Jones said that the Beatles can't even play the instrument. Their instruments. I mean, and he's a big music producer, dude. And he's go look up how much he ripped the Beatles. So wouldn't surprise me.
Oh yeah, no, like when you really get into the level of sophistication for deception that these people are utilizing on every different level of what we're exposed to, it becomes much more like Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage. And
how about Shakespeare? Was that a group of writers or was it just one dude? You've heard that idea, right?
Yeah, it was probably a disclosure technique for people who wanted to bleed things into the public consciousness. He came from an illiterate family. It's one of those things where there's a lot of head nods and winks in the things that he wrote. And so it was very likely, and you could make a similar contention for most, if not all, people of prominence, that they were either groomed, that they were either fed ideas in like a psychic kind of way, that they were just fictional concoctions in order to get us to latch onto a superficial depiction and not scratch and sniff what's actually going on behind the scenes because of how shitty it really is. That's kind of what this is. It's just every single different modality of deception that you can utilize to keep people within a particular margin of their own thoughts and expression. That's the end game. Keep you from being creative, keep you from being confident, keep you from taking action on the basis of right livelihood, and they can in essence keep you a slave.
You know all this occult stuff. What's stopping you from joining the dark side? Why are you not drawn to the wealth, power, fame, naked ladies, all that comes with it?
So when I was younger, I was more curious about that just because you look at it at the surface value and you think, oh, I'm going to go there and tell stories. And that's just what I want to do. And then very quickly you realize, oh, well, this is actually like a hierarchical criminal cartel and it's infused with the greatest evil. And they maintain control by brutalizing and subjugating people. So I have a heart that still works. I don't want to be a part of something that is there to destroy me, my soul, my friends and family, their souls, put a toll on the next generation as well. This isn't like minor stuff. When you really understand their methodology, it's the most brutal and horrific cruelty. So I just ain't on board with that bullshit. I'm not going to sell my soul for a short-term interval of fleeting fame that's utterly meaningless. And you can also think of it like this. A lot of what people think they would enjoy if they got in positions of prominence, think of it like you really love cupcakes. And so all of a sudden you get all the cupcakes you want, but every single one that you eat, it loses its flavor until at a certain point it's eating you. And that's all that's there. You're just a vessel for the depravity.
The law of diminishing returns, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's that, but ramped up to a completely other level, and it affects everyone else as well. So that's the catch of taking on that sort of satanic or devil spell. It will erode you on your deepest level, your highest level, until all that's there is whatever the hell they want to be there. And it's not a fun ride. I wouldn't recommend going on it.
Wow. So yeah, we just look up your 60s. It makes you start wondering, is it anybody? I don't think anybody in any position of providence that's put up there in front of us in pop culture, in any way in society. I don't think that it's any of it's organic whatsoever. I think it's all engineered.
Yeah, or if it was organic, it's very quickly co-opted, hijacked, infused with something else. So they will keep it within certain margins. If you're able to get, say, think of it like you're trying to get a touchdown. They'll have like different things, you're not going to get there. Maybe you got an extra few yards, but they'll do something to screw with the game so that you're not able to actually get to the end zone, let alone get outside of the stadium, let alone realize that that's actually the Coliseum, and that brings us back to the fall of Rome.
Going full circle there. What do you make of? You're in Canada, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Tell us what's happening in Canada. Are they? I saw reports. I forget. I think it was. I forget the guy's name. Press for Truth.
That's Dan Dix.
Dix. Yeah, I saw him talking about they're spraying glyphosate. Is that true in the chemtrails? They're spraying glyphosate.
Yeah, so for anyone who wants to get really in-depth into chemtrails, I recommend Jim Lee from Climate Viewer.
Oh, yeah, I had him on. Yeah,
he does brilliant work. He really goes hardcore. And a lot of how we think of chemtrails is like, it's more complicated. I'll just put it that way. Mm-hmm. It's going on. There's a lot going on. We're being poisoned. It's geoengineering, no dispute, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot going on.
But the big thing is that he talks about is just the contrails, commercial jet pollution that nobody wants to talk about because everybody wants to do this conspiracy about chemtrails. And it's like, okay, they're doing geoengineering experiments for sure, but that's not the majority that you see. The majority that you see is just regular pollution from commercial air traffic, no nefarious intent whatsoever. It's what they're putting. It's the jet fuel formula that's exhausted out of the plane. You know what I mean? No, people don't want to hear that. Because I was a big, let's march against Monsanto, expose all this, Monsanto, the geoengineering, and then it's like, well, wait a minute. I'm listening to Jim Lee. I'm like, well, what he's saying makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. And I start telling people that, and they're like, no, shut up. And I'm like, what? Come on, man. I was ahead of this I was 10 years ahead of you guys, man, on this stuff. And now you want to tell me I'm full of shit. You know what I mean? Come on, man.
No, people straight up want it to be more simple than it actually is. And that's something that I've confronted by over and over again. We'll get a particular idea. We think that we're on the edge of something, and then we don't realize that we've actually kind of been led in the wrong direction, or we've been cut short by failing to explore alternative avenues of convergence within the multifaceted layers of the reality that we exist in. You know, it's like, this is so much that at a certain point, if you don't devote your entire life to it, you're not really going to be able to keep up. So people have seen a particular thing that touches a particular note. They look at the sky, they can point to it, and then they say that's all there is to it, but it's actually a lot more complicated. And so when you understand it on a very simple level, you can think of it as just the raw forces inherent in nature. It's a love and fear dynamic. There's the holistic health of nature, of the way in which Mother Earth nurtures us as its individual cells. And then you can juxtapose that with kind of like the industrialization of the machine, which is gradually poisoning nature at large. And so if they're going out there in an industrialized capacity, trying to play God with Mother Nature, that will invariably, whether it's by explicit nefarious intent or just gross negligence of playing God, have an adverse effect on the ecosystem at large. And then that will factor into and filter us as individuals as well.
There's a good comment by Denver. He says, for every complex problem, there is an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong. H.L. Mencken. Yeah. Oh, man. So back to sorry we got off on that tangent. Are they spraying glyphosate on you from planes? We know they're spraying it, for the for the GMO crops that kill the bugs, allegedly. Are they spraying it from planes there in Canada?
Where I'm at, reported. I'm under the impression that at this point it's a slow motion poisoning of just about everything in one way or another. And the question is okay, are they putting it on this in this particular way in order to rally public support to try and make that go away? But then we still trust the labels on the food that we buy at a mainstream grocery store without understanding the process that it's brought to us. You can think of an example for cattle. If you do still eat meat, they can be grown organically, but then they can be slaughtered in a factory that will inject them just prior to that in order to meet the stipulations of a state. So it's one of those things where unless you're actually observing it firsthand, you're not going to be privy to knowing what's going into your body. And because everything is so sophisticated and complicated at this current juncture, that's almost impossible, even if it just comes down to the breathing of air. You can think of the plastic rain, which comes out of the microfibers of tires being ripped up. Simply by going out and walking next to a highway, you're breathing that in. You can think of the microplastics that show up in the fish that we eat. You can think of any different denomination of being in an industrial society. The electrosmog that we live in. For anyone who wants to get into that, check out The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Fritzenberg. And he did a great job of going over how we've seen pandemics, or what are deemed pandemics, unfold alongside of major implementations of technology. So every time there's something that comes out to the forefront of society, we'll point a finger of blame at it, but it's much more likely a convergence of different things. So are they? Very likely. But is that the sum of it? Oh, no way. It's bigger than that.
Why'd you vote for that banker, Carney?
He was appointed, I believe. I don't know how many people. And even then, it's like voting is basically just a consent ritual for bloodline pedophiles, or the people who are willing to go along with their ilk. The very premise is something that is illegitimate, and it stems from a notion of moral relativism that is beaten into us from a very early age. But even with all of that, can we trust the numbers? What's the basis of actually verifying that? If they have people compromised on every level, why wouldn't they just? I mean, you can think of Diebold in the United States, going back to an HBO documentary 20 years ago. They demonstrated that they can load negative votes, and then you can look at gerrymandering and going back to the Kennedy winning that entwines with the mob, and I'm talking about JFK. So over and over again for decades on end, it's been completely illegitimate. And at this point,
Roosevelt told us that presidents are selected, not elected.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so just when you understand that, the East India Trading Company was the precursor to much of what's happening in the drug trade today, and that they held a monopoly on the slave state, like the slave trade, you're basically understanding that what has happened in the contemporary evolution of nation states is more or less just akin to a superficial veil to hide the oligarchy under them, which is just beholden to the previous vestiges of monarchies and kings, be they those we're aware of or those who are black nobility.
It's the same guys. It's the same oligarchy. If there's a Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, it's the same oligarchy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what people don't. I don't see how people can't see that, because now in America here, there's Democrats, a big push for fighting the oligarchy. It's the same oligarchy it was before Trump got in there, but somehow, some way, now we're fighting the oligarchy.
Yeah, I think most people basically just throw up their hands and give up when they realize that it's one big club.
One big club. Okay, you've seen the martial law in D.C. there now, and Trump is now openly messaging that he's going to go into Chicago, which is blue, and a blue state and a blue city there with the governor and the mayor. What do you think all this is? Forced confrontation because of crime emergency, he says. What do you think all this is about? Is it to normalize troops on the street here for us? What is it all about? Is he genuine in his concern about crime on the streets?
Trump's debt was purchased by Wilbur Ross, who's associated with the Rothschilds. So he's always been a controlled chaos agent.
Bailed out. How do you bankrupt a casino? That's kind of hard to do, but he did bankrupt. Yeah. He did bankrupt his Trump casino there in New Jersey, right?
Yeah. So I mean, when you understand the history of him, and his mentor was Ray Cohen, and it's like him wishing.
It gets ugly. It gets ugly fast, but MAGA doesn't want to see any of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I mean, when you understand that these are I call them bobbleheads on a bulldozer. They're put there to be very annoying so that we orient our energy at toppling them. But it's kind of like if Godzilla was going to come and destroy your city and everybody could only see the toenail. So you ran to get your toenail clippers And you're like, oh no, let's destroy the toenail. And it's like, guys, the problem's a lot bigger than that. So Trump is kind of just like this person that's put out there to institute things that are on a cycle of problem, reaction, solution. Typically when they do these things, it's a stacking of functions. They want to accomplish a multitude of different things simultaneously. And they also want to give themselves wiggle room so that however it plays out, they'll be able to stay in a position of supremacy. And so right now they can give you the illusion that, oh, it's actually having a positive effect. Look, that made the crime go away. Yay, we have to do this kind of thing periodically. You know, we'll get people used to it. And then maybe at a certain point, it won't be people doing it anymore. It'll be drones. And so you can think of it going any number of different roads, but all of it equates to the stamping out of individual liberty, individual autonomy, individual actually living in reality. Instead, we're in the propaganda control grid that they have built, and that is slowly grabbing down upon us. And that's kind of a death cult, as it were.
Kind of, it is. We're at the top of the hour. Thank you again for your time today, sir. Let's go ahead and plug. I'll plug first, and then you plug. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com. Get yourself some stickers over there. We got the holograph sticker. We have the white background sticker, Weaponized News, and then the clear sticker. And we have some books at the store. We take donations. Our Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Bitcoin wallet, all in the links below this video. And again, go to Weaponized News Substack. We'll put the links to what we're talking about. Some of the stuff you got to read the books, which we know is a conspiracy theory, even reading. But go ahead and plug your stuff. Where can people find your work? What do you got to sell? And I know you're a starving artist. People need to support this guy. He's doing great, and you can hear him talk. He knows his stuff. So, what's the best place for people to find you and support your work?
Yeah, so conspiracysynergy.com is what the whole idea is. It's a introduction for your friends and family who are just getting used to the fact that the mainstream media has been lying to them. And so it's an emotionally calibrated introduction. And that's the first 8 episodes at conspiracysynergy.com. And then after that, it's mini documentaries that I'm doing on people in the truth movement who I think are doing really excellent work. So the most recent episode is a mini documentary on Charlie Robinson. And that took 5 months of me traveling around with him in different locations in order to be able to make. And so those are some very important resources for you to reach out to people who are just starting to wake up. I do everything in a value for value model. So please do donate to me if you want to allow me to continue to research the way that I do, create the media that I do. I also co-host a weekly Wednesday podcast on Rumble with Steve Bukoinen. That's AM Wake Up. That's every Wednesday morning. And you can go there and you can watch that. And we put that out there for free on the value for value model. And so those are some quick introductions for the additional work that I do as an artist. You can go to my website, teace.ca. That's TEACE.ca. And once again, I put everything, all of it, my books, my films, all of it out for free for everybody, because I think that we're at a point where we should be able to support artists who are actually doing it for real. And I've been doing this my entire life to the best of my ability to try and create alternatives to the infrastructure of Hollywood. I was on Corbett a couple of years ago on the episode that was called Replacing Hollywood. And so I'm really not just trying to create just artwork. I'm trying to create a different way that we all approach artists. And that's really what I'm up to. It's a number of different things. That's a lifelong pursuit. So you can check out teace.ca. You can watch anything there. It's all available for you for free. Conspiracysynergy.com. That's outreach for your friends and family. The weekly podcast is AM Wake Up. You can find that on the Conspiracy Synergy website. You can buy t-shirts and stuff. You can make donations to me. The point is, I'm trying to give everything away to everybody so that I can help us all be on the same page and move forward rather than get stuck in the same place.
When you start talking about the dark occult, satanic pedophiles run the world, that's where you lose a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it's the truth. It's the truth. But that's where, and I understand it sounds crazy because it is crazy. But we're just telling you, hey man, these guys are evil, doing the worst things you could stuff we can't even imagine they're up to, right? But when you start talking like that, it's just hard. But I do believe more and more people come along here. But it's just, like you say, I guess it is your life's work, the great work, as some have said, to try to raise the public consciousness level to a point where we just simply don't comply with all this tyranny is the nonviolent, peaceful solution.
Yeah, no, like picking up on the great work, I'm on the One Great Work Network, which is hosted by Mark Passio, and the next mini documentary that I'm doing is on Mark Passio. I already filmed it in Philadelphia, so I spent 6 days with him there, and I'm editing it now. And it's one of those things where he's been trying to blow the whistle on this for a very long time. And when he left, he was a priest in the Church of Satan for 10 years. When he left, he was saying, okay, I'm going to blow the whistle. I'm going to tell everyone. And they're like, you're going to be banging your head against a brick wall. That's what it's going to be like. And he admits that they were completely right. The dark Luciferians call the public either the dead or the unbegun. They think of us in a very lowly animal bestial state. Part of that's because they keep us in that place, but also we keep ourselves in that place. A lot of the time people will point a finger at the globalists as if they're the problem. The reality is that each of us need to step up in our own capacity, help one another. And in doing that, we'll be able to actually change things in due time. But that takes personal responsibility, like you mentioned, and that's not something that a lot of people want to do. And so if they turn into someone like Passio, they'll just hear that he's very angry, but they won't necessarily understand what he's angry about.
It's easier to just trust the plan, man. Trump's going to save us. He's getting rid of all the bad guys. We had a comment here. So Trump wasn't just a businessman, wasn't just a good businessman. No, actually, he bankrupted his own casinos. I don't know how you can even do that, but he did. And he had to get bailed out by old Rothschild banker Wilbur Ross there. So everybody could go look that up. Oh, man. And yeah, that was a good segue to the great work. Well, we'll have to definitely promote that. Well, so are we going to start another war here with a regime change? It looks like another war as America is sending the Navy down to South America to fight the drug war now, and has put a $5 or $50 million bounty on the head of the president of Venezuela, Maduro. Are we going to start a war with Venezuela or do a regime change? What do you think? Or are they all in the same club as well?
Yeah, they're all in the same club. A good book that goes into that is this one, which is Dope Inc., Britain's Opium War Against the World. And it's one of those things where once you actually look into the history of it, like you can look at the CIA controlling the Medellin cartel. You can look at the way in which all these different things have been stacked up over and over again in order to be able to keep people of the impression that the drug war is about stopping drugs. It's not. It's about keeping their price up. They're funding the people that they're trying to stop, and it just makes it so that it's this ongoing cycle of this just monstrous wheel that people don't understand is a prominent player on like the global stage to such an extent where it holds more power and sway than any elected officials actual say at the end of the day. That's how this goes. It's like it's not going to be stopped. If they're pretending to stop it, they're doubling down on it. You can look at like the crops.
Aren't they just taking out the competition?
Yeah, but I mean, like, look at like the crops of Afghanistan, like post 9/11. It's like they went in and they told the farmers they're going to be planting opium. Prior to that, it was under the jurisdiction of Russia via the Mujahideen and all that kind of thing. They had shut down their opium production, but arguably were doing it to increase the price of the stockholds that they had. And then America rolls in and they're overseeing the growing of that. So if they're going into a region to stamp out what they deem terrorism or drug lords or anything like that.
You had to get Bin Laden, man. Bin Laden blew up those buildings.
Yeah, it's the public facade that they get everyone to rah, rah, rah. And then under that, it's actually just the opposite.
Just the opposite. Do the dark occultists get power from that?
Oh, absolutely. Because you can think of something as simple as like the phenomenological overlap between the usage of hard drugs and demon possession. Even think of the word when you're charged with possession. What are you being charged with? Are you possessed? Are you possessing? It's like it's that idea of each one of these compromised notations of our resonance and our higher consciousness and ability as individuals ultimately comes to impair us. And at that point, what are we ultimately doing? Is that us, or are we channeling something that is trying to sabotage us? It's one of those things where you have to wonder if they understand the metaphysical, not just the physical. And we're out here just existing in the physical. We don't understand what's real, what's being done to us, what its ultimate purpose is. You can look at something as simple as brutalist architecture, which is like large square buildings, and the effect that that has on people both in them and around them. So we're existing in large stasis chambers that have been built for us by people who understand much more of what's out there than we're ever privy to.
Have you seen the new Obama?
Oh yeah, it's so ugly. It's brutal.
What is it called? I guess the Presidential Center in Chicago, and that's pretty brutalist, ugly looking, and having major problems there as well. Cost overruns, complaints from Black activists there in Chicago that they don't like it. Here's an image of it, of the campus and the whole. That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty grotesque and like. Yeah, no, but I mean, that gives you a good example. If they build really ugly crap that's just depressing, it has a negative effect on everyone. And it's a subtle way, but for anyone who wants to get into that study and a profound insight, the books, they're on the bottom of the stack there, so I'd actually like have to like break my back pulling them out. But you can look into biogeometry, and that gives you the effect of a particular symmetry on the population. And this goes all the way down to like the symbols that we write with. So one of the examples that they did is they had a bunch of squiggles on a page, and they had a variety of different people who were, I believe it was epileptic or something within that range, approach the squiggles, and 80% of them chose the ones that inherently reduced their symptoms overall. So we intuitively gravitate towards certain things, but if we're not exposed to those, we don't understand what their effects are. So we exist within a stasis chamber of what we see as normal, but it's not. It's actually a metaphysical sabotage of our greatest efficacy.
You got to give it to them. They know what they're doing. They're now all the way down to the building's brutalistic architecture. Oh man, I don't know. It looks like they're getting ready to crank up another invasion there, and there's been oil discovered there in Guyana, right south of Venezuela. So why not overthrow that government and go ahead and grab all that oil as well? I mean, seems, and then blame it on cocaine trafficking.
Yeah. So that's stacking functions. Anytime they do something like this, think of it like a Jenga block. Oh, we want to accomplish this thing. Well, we can also do this and this and this, and then we can build that on top of it. And then at a certain point, it's so many things in one cylinder that it's like a rod of God getting dropped on your ass. And so they're accomplishing a lot anytime they do something like this, and they always have to make a lot of money in the process. And so they'll do that at the expense of the population who's willing to go along with this.
Let's play this clip and see if, let's get your take on this. This is the bobblehead blonde press secretary woman Levitt today. She says that they are restoring, they're committed, Trump and Kennedy are committed to restoring trust and transparency and credibility to the CDC.
The president and Secretary Kennedy are committed to restoring trust and transparency and credibility to the CDC by ensuring their leadership and their decisions are more public-facing, more accountable, strengthening our public health system, and restoring it to its core mission of protecting Americans from communicable diseases, investing in innovation to prevent, detect, and respond to future threats. That's the mission of the CDC, and we're going to make sure that folks that are in positions of leadership there are aligned with that mission. The president...
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Bobby flew on the Lolita Express 3 times and Trump like has a wonderful relationship with Epstein. It's not like there's significant dirt on everyone in all of these positions of power.
That's just a Democrat hoax, Trump told me.
Yeah, no, I know. But I mean, it's like one of those things, like if you look into the founding of the allopathic model and the degree to which that entwines with Rockefeller medicine, it really is just about sabotaging our understanding of what human health is. And so that institution is an offshoot of the United Nations. Once again, that's created for the sake of like following off of the League of Nations. These are iterations of expansion that we interpret as if they exist for some sort of diplomatic or health-based mission. But it's just the opposite of that. So restoring legitimacy is another way of saying we're going to give a new paint job to the meat grinder that we throw your kids into, using a schedule of things that should never get near anyone, let alone injected into them.
It's right. It's right on the ingredients. Now the big current thing, which is a tragic event, this alleged transgender shooter shot up this Catholic school. Here's Bobby Kennedy Jr. talking about they made the black box of warning on psychiatric drugs that the shooter may have been on. We don't know. Let's hear him talk about this there with the Texas Governor Abbott today.
I certainly consider mass shootings a health crisis, and we are doing for the first time real studies to find out what the etiology of that is. And we're looking for the first time at psychiatric drugs. You know, these kind of mass shooting, people have had guns in this country forever. When I was a kid, we had shooting clubs at our school. People, kids, my classmates, other people, would bring a .22 rifle with their guns to school and park it in the parking lot. Nobody was shooting. So there's never been a time in America, in the history of humanity, and people walked into a crowd, into a church or a movie theater or a school or a crowd of strangers and just started randomly shooting. It's happening in our country. It's not happening around the world. And there are many other countries that have comparable levels of guns that we have in this country. We had comparable levels in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and people weren't doing that. Something changed, and it dramatically changed human behavior. And one of the culprits we need to examine is whether the fact that we are the most over-medicated nation in the world, and that a lot of those are psychiatric drugs that have black box warnings on them that warn of suicidal and homicidal ideation. So we are doing those studies right now for the first time.
He's not wrong, right?
Oh yeah, no, he's totally right. This is really important to understand for a lot of the people that are put out there that we regard as our savior. They will tell you the truth about stuff, but there's a poison pill hidden in the back end. So if he's trying to get people off of SSRIs, which is I think like 20 to 30% of the population, something like that, and it's something like 50 to 60 or even more percent are on one medication or another. Point being, it's a really big problem, and it's a very sincere and serious problem. So if they try and remove you from the drug cocktail that they're currently pumping into you, are they going to have a bait and switch kind of thing later on, like a technological intervention that they need wearables for in order to gradually have you enter into the internet of bodies so that they can monitor every single mood that you have, every single thing inside of yourself? That's kind of like the future that they're trying to march us towards. So they'll give you the truth about the current problem, but that's only so that they can remove that and replace it with a bigger problem.
And they know full well, and no one gets in trouble. Here's today it's announced by the FDA. I don't know, are we allowed to say it? The emergency use authorization for the Bat Miracles has been removed. Mandates are no longer legally possible. Here's the head of the FDA. Will we get censored for saying the V word? I don't know.
The FDA did two things. One, we approved COVID vaccines for the newest strain, and they're for high-risk individuals. Second thing we did is remove the emergency use authorization for COVID vaccines, which will eliminate the possibility of doing mandates in young, healthy subjects. Mandates are no longer legally possible. But anyone who wants to get a vaccine can get a vaccine. Remember, 20% of medications in the United States are given off-label. The vaccines will still be available.
Dr. McCary, I noticed the role of the physician seems to be increasing here as a...
See, you can still get your miracles. It's no problem.
Yeah, so my fundamental underlying contention is that what we observed during the
medical intervention period.
I can't say the word. I can't say. So basically, in the period of time when everyone was lied to on a scale that we haven't ever experienced on that level all at once, and lockdowns were occurring and all that kind of thing, in that period of time, what they accomplished was multifaceted and profoundly evil. What they did was, if you can use electron microscopy or other different methods of analyzing what was in each respective vial, and none of them are the same. So this is very likely a smokescreen canvas for a variety of different things, some of which probably overlap with CRISPR, others which might actually be kind of just like placebos. It's a huge range of things, and that's not separate from the electrosmog environment that we exist in. And in addition to that, if you look at what people regarded as the illness that they experienced in that period of time, which was for the most part nothing but influenza, that's all it was. But anyway, if you look at the maps of exposure to information, it directly overlapped with 5G. What that means is that it could be a poisoning in one capacity, in two capacities, or in three, because there's the psychosomatic emergence of our idea that we're ill or that we're going to die in a fear-based kind of propaganda campaign like we experienced to make
us. Death count at in the top corner of your screen all over television, right?
Oh, yeah,
Here's the death count. Everybody's dying.
And the number one cause of illness is stress. So what they're doing now is they're kind of slow trickling the idea that, oh, hey, there are all these negative consequences. By the way, did you realize that there are all these bad things? But they have to do it slowly, because if they do it all at once, people will bust a gasket, be it literally, or they'll go out and they'll pop a cap and some motherfucker trying to blame
it. There was a shooting at the CDC a couple of weeks ago that they can't get over.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is that they can actually use the idea of revealing the truth as the poison pill that they give to everyone. But once again, not everyone actually got what they told they were getting. It's a lot more sophisticated than that. When you understand what this becomes when injected into a person, it's closer to an alchemical phenomena. So if you did get one of these things, just relax. Automatically, that's going to make it better for you, because they're going to come out and they're going to tell you, oh no, you need to be terrified, and you need these technological interventions for the rest of your life in order to be okay. Don't go along with that. There are going to be alternative therapeutic methods or methodologies, removing yourselves from things, or basically upping your own personal resilience. If you want to read a book on it's Regenerate by Sire G, he was a dude who removed milk and dairy products from his diet, and it cured his asthma. And then he started to look more into the various different effects of what all these kind of things are doing. He founded a website called Green Med Info. It's like .org or something like that. But that's an alternative trajectory to begin to look at things differently. Do not trust the rollout of the next level of this ongoing psyop, because it is ultimately the transhuman agenda. They're trying to get you used to the idea that you need updated technology in order to retain your health because of what was done to humanity. Oh, whoopsie daisy. It wasn't actually the DOD. It was just our bad, homie. You know, no, it doesn't work that way.
It was the bats and the pangolins. I'm sticking to that story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I see it as like very much just all fabricated and all lies from the ground up, with like virus-like particles in select poisoning campaigns, with a lot of different things being put under broad diagnostic umbrellas to try and get us to think of it as much more simple when it's actually much more multifaceted. And so this is in the intelligence apparatus strategizing how to kill people and then make it look like it was on them. And that's ongoing.
They blame the bats, man. Did you see the should have had it ready, but I didn't. We can't talk about it or we get in trouble on the YouTube. The World Health Organization is the greatest ever YouTube. Did you ever notice this crazy thing? This U.S. quarter issued in 2020 has the bat on the back of it. Did you ever see that?
No, that's
funny.
See
that? 2020 U.S. quarter, and it's from because they did this thing honoring all states. But this is from a territory, I want to say Samoa. Anyway, there it is for everybody to see, literally mocking us with a bat on the quarter in 2020.
Yeah, they do slow drip symbolism, usually in large ceremonial capacities, because that is technically communicating that to the subconscious of the species. And if we remain silent in the face of it, they consider it consent. So the longer in which we are simply recipients of this kind of thing, they perceive it as active participants in our own undoing.
If you just would have wore your mask, you wouldn't have killed Granny, you know?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, like man, it's all just levels of insanity. But at this point, like where I'm in Canada, I'll see many different people wearing masks every day, and a lot of them will be
Still.
yeah, no, alone in cars. So what that means is it's like it's a deeply entrenched
They'll
psychological.
wear a mask the rest of their life then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at this
Oh yeah.
point.
Yeah, and then they'll be the first in line to try and get the thing that they're told will save their life when the reality is it's just elaborate human experimentation campaigns.
We have a longtime friend of the show here, Barry. Thank you for joining us again, Barry. Shout out to Barry. That was a great segue about the transhumanism too. China is building, so you don't only have to get it from Musk and his Neuralink, you could get a Chinese made brain chip. Wired magazine reports China is building a brain computer interface industry, the BCI industry, within 5 years. And so imagine what they're going to do to the poor folks over there in China. A new policy document outlines China's plan to create an internationally competitive BCI industry within 5 years and proposes developing devices for both health and consumer uses. It's all coming online here.
Yeah, typically the way that this works is they'll do regional cultural trial balloons based on different demographics to see how something works or doesn't work, and then they can try and make that malleable and applicable in a different region. So you can look at, and like Catherine Austin Fitts will talk about the genocide that's going on as that's a method, and at a certain point that method is going to be exported to other parts of the world to just be veiled differently. So it's that level of severity. They are doing these trial balloons to then export them elsewhere under a different veneer, and then typically, or not typically, depending on the population in that area, we'll do it of our own volition. We'll demand it. We'll insist it. We'll want it. We'll think that it's the good thing that's for our best interest when the reality is it's, once again, just the opposite. We're in an inverted world.
We will demand the brain chips. Brain computer interfaces, or BCIs, read and decode neural activities to translate it into commands because they provide a direct link between the brain and an external device such as a computer or robotic arm. BCIs have tremendous potential as assistive devices for people with severe physical disabilities. So what do you hate disabled people?
Yeah, one of the things is if you look at neuroplasticity, that's a means by which a lot of different people who have like gone through strokes or other basically events in their lifetime that have crippled them and seemingly they can't come back from it, they can go through the process of learning to crawl again, learning to walk again, and through natural expression actually reach a point of being fully functional once again. Now, obviously, there are a great many people who aren't in a position where they can do that kind of thing, but the point I'm getting at is that the stranglehold of the allopathic medical industry, which is infused with technology, extinguishes our ideas that surround alternative methodology. So they're going to continue to hammer on the idea that health and technology are the same thing. The reality is that health is not supposed to be infused with technology, and the more in which we do that, the more in which it's detrimental to humanity.
China's commercializing the brain chip basically here now. Damn, yeah.
Yeah. They'll make it look like they're separate and because of the nation state veil. But I mean, you look at like Kissinger going.
How about that? Okay. How about that? I covered geopolitics hardcore for a year, about a year ago now. Anyway, it looks like we keep hearing out of China, Russia, mostly China. And America. When Blinken was Secretary of State, we're in a new era. The new era. They keep saying it. The new era. The new world order. But aren't at the top level in secret societies, all of these quote nation states on the same page in lockstep as we saw with the medical intervention period, but on many different issues, all on an agenda toward one world government.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. And so, like, we think of these things based on the risk map that we're given as children. And then we go out there and we bang our ideas of how things work together. But you can look at Kissinger going into China to make it the vessel of creating the template for the New World Order before it becomes an international model. And that's just how things work. We're told a very simple Santa Claus version of the story when it's a much more complicated reality. And underneath the veneer of nation states, it's people who will do anything to retain power. And on its deepest, darkest level, that's something that goes back into antiquity. It's been with humanity and has been pulling the strings all the way back into Rome and before it. It's the force of involution, the force of basically pure evil, if you want to call it that. And it will go to all ends, no ends, whatever you want to describe it as, to keep us from getting ahead. Or for that matter, even pulling our head out of the weeds that we have been dug into. And it doesn't matter what country you're in, the same basic force is proliferating all about you. It will just wear different faces, different names. It could be in an organized religion. It could be there pretending to be your very best friend. Because a lot of the time, that's how evil actually works. It isn't this kind of like Disney villain template that we've
It's
been
not the
given.
red devil with the horns.
No. It's more like the person who pretends to be your very best friend as they stick something in your arm that they know will end your life decades earlier. It's more like that. They pretend to care. They use that superficial veneer to lure us closer. And then, like Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, talking about, we'll kill them with kindness. That's what this is. So a lot of people who are offering you what feels like saving grace, that's just a superficial face, and beneath it, it's much more macabre.
Putin's evil, YouTube. We have to say that every now and again because they say that you're pro-Russia. If where are we at? We're at the second half of the year here, 2025. Where are we at on Agenda 2030? How are they doing in implementing the goals for sustainable development? Do you think, are they on schedule, behind schedule, ahead of schedule? What do you think is going on with that in the background here, as we all care about our puppet politicians?
I don't know, because really, if they basically pull the plug on the financial system at any given time, they'll be able to expedite things very, very quickly, much like we saw during the lockdown interval. And so it's one of those things where they typically parse these things out, and they'll make it so that it falls in a way where you're given very little choice. And if you look at like the idea of Social Security or things like that disappearing, and then you're put in a position where you're supposed to care for friends and family, you can look at the real estate bubble as arguably being about 1.5 to 2 times as bad now as it was in 2008. That's when you start to think, okay, well, literally all they have to do is pop one of these things, or they can potentially pop a lot of these things. And the recent documentary that I did on Charlie Robinson, the book that he wrote, is The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. And he draws the parallel between the way this is being done with the squibs that are put in the building in order to take it down on every different level. And at the exact same time, for anyone who's really studied it, chances are it wasn't just controlled demolition. It was also the utilizing of advanced technology in a variety of different capacities. You can watch a core column of pure steel fall into the wind and turn to dust. That makes no sense. And yet it happened right in front of us. So if they're utilizing a variety of different things to pop a controlled demolition of our current way of being, they can rev things up very quickly. And it's not that we won't see it coming, it's that most people won't see it coming. And then that creates a stampede, and then we're trampled underfoot.
They got many different cards to play here,
Yeah.
for sure. Electromagnetic weapons, we need these to defend against drones. Axios is reporting today this military defense contractor, Epirus, check these guys out. Supposedly they have direct energy weapons that can take out drones, they say. These little devices right here, well, here it is. They zap drones out of the sky, they say, with a long pulse, high power microwave technology to achieve unmatched efforts against numerous electronic threats, beginning with the counter UAS mission. What do you think of this stuff?
I really have to wonder how much of the deployment of advanced systems of technology is going to be something that creates a perpetual, almost like 1984 fear-based environment that we live in, that by association reduces human ability to travel, human ability to do anything, because it's been allocated for the machine. You can also even look at just people's power bills going up because of the building of data centers. So they're creating this kind of environment all around us. And at a certain point, we're just going to feel unsafe unless we're huddled under the things they're telling us are keeping the bad guys away.
Will this microwave direct energy weapon keep us safe? I don't know. I have my doubts.
None of this is about safety. It's all about control. I mean, like the more in which you remove your active participation from the entrenchment in these various different systems, the more in which they cannot function because they still fundamentally rely on you. Now, fast forward a few different years, if they've automated things, that's going to be a different picture, and it gets a lot scarier. That's why it's a very
they're getting ready to roll out humanoid robots, right? I mean,
oh yeah, no, I mean, like you can get into all of that, both in the sense of like the Boston Dynamics ones, which are a little bit more like hush hush, versus public versions, which are coming out of China, and they're like just
Tesla. Musk throws up that Optimus, I think they call it, but there's a bunch in America here of the humanoid robots. There's video. I forget what the heck's the name? I forget the name of the tech firm, but anyway, they have I don't know if you saw that one of a humanoid robot working on the manufacturing line at a BMW car factory and just doing rudimentary tasks like moving big boxes of parts and stuff like this and loading up specifically for just that task on the production line. But that took a human job right there, and that's just what they're showing us. And they can work 24/7. And they don't have a union, no benefits, nothing like this. And that's just what they're showing us. So imagine what they have that they're not showing us yet.
Oh yeah, no, that's a whole other thing. Like how advanced it actually is behind the scenes. It's like it's so. I mean, like I think it's Ben Rich, Lockheed Skunk Works. Anything that you can imagine, we already have the ability to do. It's just wrapped up in black projects, and it'll never get out to benefit humanity. And so, what we're looking at is the slow drip introduction of these various different systems to us in a way in which it acclimates us to acceptance. Now, in some ways, that can actually be beneficial. You can think of the various different things that we have in a modern like quality of living capacity that have actually made things easier, faster, blah, 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 stuff like that. Here's the thing. The people who are in control of that rollout are like deranged evil psychopaths who are trying to use it to control and destroy you. So it isn't just the technology that we're talking about. It's the people who are building it. It's the mad scientists who are behind it. That's more of what the actual crux of the argument is. So they're going to show the beneficial applications of a lot of things that actually do have beneficial applications. But the consequence of it, like you said, is it's going to remove a human job. It's going to remove various different ways in which we're able to go out there and make ends meet. And at a certain point, that makes it so we're just mincemeat for the state, and they want to instate UBI so that we are dependent on it on another level beyond where we already are.
I don't know, man. Epirus says they work with DARPA. We could probably trust them, right?
Right.
There it is. There it is on their website. That says our work with DARPA.
Yeah, no, once you understand the connecting threads, it's pretty obvious, but a lot of people don't understand one of them, let alone many of them, and I don't even understand all of them, so it's wow, it's a lot.
I want one of these, though. Look at that. I want one of these tanks with the microwave weapons so I can shoot down the drones. I don't think they'll let me have one as a civilian.
I have no idea.
Okay, what else do we got here? Well, today, they say Merz, Chancellor of Germany, says there will not be a meeting between Putin and Zelensky. What do you think about that? Russia-Ukraine war. Are we gonna see an end to it anytime soon, or what's going on with that? As we had the big, peace summits this last week with Trump, Putin, and then Trump with all the European puppets. What do you think's going on there? Are they going to stop killing each other anytime soon?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, proxy wars are just like meat grinders for population destabilization, you know, Ukraine being the breadbasket of Europe. You can look at like Zelensky being a dude, we literally have him as playing a piano with his dick because he's just an actor, you know. So you instate someone like that to give the illusion of it being a legitimate war. And then on the opposite side, you can look at Putin as ex-KGB. There is no ex-KGB. So really, he's just a vestige of the oligarchy, which uses the superficial auspices of his legitimacy to get away with operating with impunity. So that means, is Putin even alive? I don't know. If you look at like how advanced their technology is for like masks and other different things, if you look at how many different body doubles he has,
clones, drones, robots, masks, holograms,
like, all that stuff, And so we basically just trust this on the superficial level that it's given to us. At the very least, they're either frontmen or actors. That's an established fact. They are frontmen or actors.
Well,
they are not.
Zelensky played the part of a guy on a Ukrainian TV show becoming president, all fiction, and then became president in real life.
Yeah.
And that's not even hidden. That's all public knowledge.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So there's that level to it. And then there's the more advanced variant where we literally can't take any of this at face value. And yet every single day we're reading headlines and that repetition sinks in. So we're like, oh, those are real people. This is how it's happening. That's what's important. None of that's true. But that is our point of view. And we return to that point of view because that's what the headline says. And then we share that between each other.
But they are really killing each other there.
Oh, yeah. No, like in Ukraine, they recently changed it so that they're trying to get people over 60 in the military. They can now go out and get people who are over 60. That's how many people have been dying. It's like an 8-to-1 or 9-to-1 kill ratio from Russia to Ukraine. So it's a meat grinder. It's a very real meat grinder. I'm not disputing that. I'm saying that the way in which they've gotten people to go along with it, that's the deceptive lie, that they have to basically put a red carpet so that people will march into the meat grinder at the end of it.
It's quite horrific there. Are we going to see them stop anytime soon? What do you think?
I have no idea, because if they stop there, it's almost like they're picking up shop to move elsewhere. They can only have so many proxy wars happening at any one time until everyone realizes it's a full-blown world war. Even though it is a world war and there's never any stop between the first one, the second one, or the third one that's ongoing, it's all the same thing. And so this is like, how many different things can they have at any one time? And if you look at the state of what they've already accomplished there, how much longer do they need to drag it out, really?
Haven't they sold, like, or doesn't BlackRock have the contract to rebuild Ukraine? Something like this, I believe.
I don't know the official corporate holdings for any different thing, but it's like, if you look at like even Canada, it's something like 70 to 80% of the land here is still owned by the monarchy. So like, what are the technical trusts, contractual obligations, corporate ownership dynamics, et cetera, and so forth, in the various mesh matrix by which they claim ownership of anything? And then on another note, they'll create entirely fictitious countries that will plague us in a significant capacity. And we're supposed to now worship their flag inside of our own institutions. So every level, it's just utter insanity.
Sounds antiseptic to me.
I can't remember the code words, but yeah.
Antiseptic. Here's Ice Barbie, Christy Nome, head of Department of Homeland Security with the Aardvark Foreign Minister, SAR, today. And so there you go. Here's let's show the picture. Yeah, we'll try to wrap up at the 2 hour, maybe a little bit shorter here. Thank you for your time again. Appreciate your great intellect on this deep subject matter, trying to break the mind control here. Today, the genocide continues there, being reported from the Gaza Health Ministry. 61 killed there in Gaza today in the last 24 hours. Quite horrific indeed there. Genocide, ethnic cleansing program. What do you make of this? As I think you mentioned, this is, I've been saying, and I believe it's a military test laboratory, and they definitely are going to take what they learned there, using Palantir Lavender as one example, but many other pieces of technology, and they're going to move it to another spot to wipe out more people. What do you think about that idea?
Oh yeah, war is a test lab. You can look at like Vietnam did the same thing, Project Phoenix,
Mm.
going into the various different levels of depravity. That's not only what they can accomplish in that particular geographical region, because you've seen that repeated with Gulf War. Obviously, they were using the voice of God, different things like that. And so it's these different technologies that they'll try.
Wait. The voice of God, that's voice to skull technology where they beam voices in your head and make you feel like a schizophrenic.
Yeah. And so every different one of these things, they'll try out different little toys, but they're not only trying them internally within the region, they're also seeing what they can get away with back home. And so anytime that this is going on, it's a push-pull dynamic of they'll centralize their focus in those particular regions as a test lab, but it's also a broader phenomenon that bounces back and influences and affects all of us. If for no other level, and it's on every level, don't get me wrong, but then when you're watching this, you're vicariously experiencing it, and it traumatizes you by association. You can think of like the footage of 9/11. We watched it over and over and over again. So it is a trauma-based mind control ritual in and of itself. War is an occult, large-scale sacrifice.
The footage coming out, I can't even play it on the show. It's so horrific. Every day, kids, women, children, even men that are not no part of it, just civilians, arms, legs, heads blowing off everywhere. I call it war porn. Yep. It's just very traumatic and horrific and evil, and it's just nonstop going on over there in Gaza right now. That whole area, they're creating the larger Aardvark land project, right, and taking all of this land. They tell us right here, they're bombing big major airstrikes today on Yemen, and so it continues bombing Syria, bombing Lebanon, wiping out that whole area, annexing essentially the whole West Bank, and now going into what little, I think it's like 20% left has Palestinians in Gaza, and getting rid of them. And so it's a full-on takeover program amidst protesting there by the Aardvarks in Aardvark land. A new app launched, the app to combat anti-septic movement called CAM, and you can report anti-septic behavior on this app here. And so I'm thinking about reporting the protesters there in Aardvark land, but combat anti-septic movement here on this new app. And so we could, go stage up hate symbols and report on ourselves if we felt that industrious. But here is the app, so you can go and report on your neighbors there about their antiseptic feelings. No?
I mean, it's just one of those things. It's very much North Korea levels of propaganda internally within that country that is so fake they had to name it Israel just to get you to believe in it. And it's one of those things where it was built as a slow, gradual, incendiary destruction of the region. And it's manifesting in exactly the capacity, and they're utilizing a biblical script to try and get away with it. And then everyone else signs off on the idea because they're depraved enough to think that that's saintly or holy, when really it's just turned kids into Swiss cheese.
But these religious fanatics believe that they're going to bring about the Messiah, and they're going to play out the whole, Revelation's prophecy is what they believe.
Yeah, and you can argue that all of the mainstream religions are in essence created by dark occultists. They were done so in an exoteric version in order to keep us within narrow margins so that we would go along with anything, and basically think that just by saying a few magic words that are prescribed to us from an authoritative body, that will forgive anything that we do while we're here on this earth. And it's utterly insane. And so many people have been so habitually entrained that they'll ride that train to their own grave, including their friends and family, because they think that it's going to get them into heaven, when really it's just the opposite. It's going to create hell on earth.
Tell us about natural law. Tell us about natural law. That's fundamental to breaking the mind control here now, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. So morality is objective. It's the very easy way to think of it is in the apophatic, basically meaning the things that you can't do. You can't violate someone else's rights. And what that is like the church teaches us that the 7 deadly sins, it's like, it's like wrath, lust, sloth, all that kind of stuff. No, that's more like vices. Those vices can lead you to a point of committing what are actual sins, all of which more or less just equate to stealing. But you can think of them as murder, rape, trespass, coercion, things like that. Those are actual serious violations. And so natural law is understanding that morality is objective, but we were raised in the idea that it's actually subjective, that if you get enough people together in a system of government, that they can decree morality. But that's insanity. Getting
moral relativism, and then they can, whatever the group decides is the truth is the truth.
Yeah, which is just completely insane. It's like, oh, if we get enough people together, all of a sudden water isn't wet. It's like, it doesn't work that way. Morality is
Trump's a good guy.
Yeah, stuff like that. And it'll be completely crazy, and they'll typically have to do it slowly in a gradual kind of rotation so that they can get you acclimated through confusion until eventually the confused are built like a fuse by con men. And that's how this goes off. It pops off over and over again. We need to understand that once we get to the root of the problem, it is understanding that morality is objective, and each of us is responsible for living a moral life, and so too helping other people understand what morality is so that they can live moral lives. The more in which we do that, we gradually decommission and erode the pre-existing systems, all of which depend on our active participation. So that's what the real revolution is. It's understanding natural law, which is objective morality inherent to nature, living in accordance with it through right livelihood, helping other people do that as well. So we're not just a bunch of like selfish people who think that we can just curl up in a ball. Sorry, this is a global thing and they're sending machines after you. We kind of need to help and support each other here, guys. And if you're under the impression that that doesn't apply to you in whatever it is you do, I got news for you. That mindset is more of the problem than the globalists who are coming after you. Change that mindset, and you're going to be a part of changing other mindsets, and that's going to ripple outward until eventually we're actually able to change the very paradigm and the state of consciousness for the species at large. And that's what the idea of the great work is. And that is based on natural law at its fundamental foundation, all the way through your active participation until it brings about a real world revolution.
That's a very good explanation. Very succinct. So we're almost there though, right? We're getting there to Terminator being real life here now, right? Without the time travel and all that, but literal humanoid robots that are weaponized. And well, there's drones right now. They're doing it, and so it's coming here to Western civilization before we know it.
Well, the reality is that they're trying right now the
because in Gaza, Lavender Palantir software, they databased everybody, and they used like 6 degrees of separation. Where if a guy delivered the pizza, and then 6 people down the line somehow, and that guy had talked to an alleged terrorist, then everybody in that line of relations is now a terrorist.
Yeah, and they were setting precedent for stuff like that with like the drone bombing of Anwar al-Awlaki, who was an American citizen who was like a 16-year-old kid that Barry Soetoro bombed back in the day. So they do this kind of stuff at a build up to it being normalized and then happen and kind of like on
now it's implemented full scale in Gaza.
Now it's an industrial level, exactly. So they kind of like start off and then it basically becomes exponential at a certain point. The implementation of these various different technocratic digital systems will either be done in a militaristic authoritative model, or it will be done in a subversive slow creep. An example being, we already talked about the kind of like Boston Dynamics, like Terminator kind of robots. They're also unleashing sex bots. Okay, so there's going to be the ones that fuck us or the ones that we fuck them. Either way, they're going to get into your head. They're going to get into a very intimate place. And depending on where you're at in the human race, what the systems that surround you are like, they're going to figure out different ways in. It's coming from every different direction. And at a certain point, that's not inevitable for everyone, but for some people, it is going to happen. We are going to see the enacting of these kind of like, I don't even know what to describe it as, Sauron's like tower, Mordor, freaking like the Tower of Babel, whatever the hell you want to use in order to be able to conceive of the epicenter of the force of involution manifesting in this realm. If you look at the esoteric notion for that, going into anthroposophy, the terminology would be Ahriman, which is the force of evil brought about in a materialist capacity through technology. And then that is our responsibility to stand up against that. And that's the terminology that goes from the Zoroastrian like belief system. So this is like, depending on the cultural lens through which you view things, it looks a little bit different, but it's basically all the same. It's a war between good and evil. And that's what's happening right now through our technology, trying to subvert our humanity and merge with the machine.
The singularity?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a real thing. That's more of like a death cult. That's more of like Ray Kurzweil's wet dream. It's not.
Musk talks about it a lot too.
Yeah, but they're all sort of like appointed, mediocre, pseudo-intellectual cucks who pretend to actually be on top when really they're very much a bottom. And once you understand what's going on underneath them in the deep underground military base infrastructure, which arguably overlaps with older civilizations that we're not privy to on the surface, it becomes more of like a vampiric dynamic. It is something that is anti-human and vehemently hates us.
Talk about hates their own people. This report, I'm sure you saw, or maybe you didn't. I don't know how close you follow the news daily, but it was actually 6, but it's still being reported. 5 journalists, it's up to over 200 killed there in Gaza, but just a few days ago, 5, it was actually 6. They leave them out because he wasn't whatever. Anyway, this report says Reuters, which is why it's getting big headlines now, because one of them was Reuters and I believe AP. Reuters says it stopped sharing Gaza journalist locations with Aardvark land after repeated killings. A Reuters cameraman was among 5 journalists killed in an Aardvark strike at Nasser Hospital, despite the outlet informing the IDF, quote, multiple times its teams were operating there. Wasn't Reuters giving the Aardvarks a target list of journalists to go ahead and kill? I mean, they can't be this naive and don't realize they're stacked over 200 journalists already, dead bodies up there. Didn't they realize that you were just giving them where to target the journalists so they can suppress the genocide there?
They've been hunting journalists in that region for a very long time.
Right.
That's how it goes. That's par for the course in like the highway to hell that they're paving in the Greater Israel Project. Yeah. So that's how it goes.
I don't understand how you work for one of these outlets over there, especially knowing this, AP, Reuters, knowing they're going to put a literal target on you.
I think a lot of people have reached the point where they understand that this is a matter of life and death, and they're actually willing to do the right thing, even if it means that they're going to die. And that's kind of what I'm talking about with I call it gaslight gas chambers. That's what people exist in right now. Let me be very clear. If you're listening to this, it is a matter of life and death. If you are still dragging your ass, stop doing that. And that doesn't mean you go out there and become violent because that's what they want. It means you go out there and you become intelligent, creative. You use your individual skill sets. You support the people who are doing the work. If you aren't a media creator, oh, hey, guess what? I'm a professional filmmaker and I've already done a lot of that for you. It's about trying to go out there and do what you can do, conducive to getting other people to remove their active participation from instating this next level slave system, because we're already in one.
The next level. We still have some relative freedom here.
If by relative you mean like we don't, but we pretend that our cousin.
We're not in literal chains quite yet, but
no, but that's Goethe. It's like none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. It's mental slavery. They don't need us to actually be in chains. It works better keeping us in mental bondage.
Lower overhead.
Yeah.
We're at the 2-hour mark. I really do appreciate your time here and this talk. Let's plug you one more time. Let's pull up the conspiracysynergy.com first, and then give us the plugs through this again one more time, please.
Yeah, sure thing. So please do go to conspiracysynergy.com. It's for you and your friends and family. The newer episodes are mini documentaries that take me about a month and a half full time to be able to create. I put them out for free because I am morally obligated to put them out for free. That doesn't mean they're free for me. They take a lot of money, they take a lot of time, they take a lot of energy. So please do donate to me so I can continue to make these. The next one is on Mark Passio. And so that's conspiracysynergy.com. If you want to check out any of the art that I've done, the books that I've written, the films that I've made, that's at teace.ca, teace.ca. And once again, a weekly podcast that I co-host is AM Wake Up with Steve McCoy, and that's over on Rumble. So you can tune into that if you feel like it.
Right here, you can just click the links right there.
Yep, it's the bottom right-hand side there, and that's every Wednesday I'm on, and Ryan from Last American Vagabond co-host Tuesday, and Steve is on the Independent Media Alliance with a whole bunch of other cool people. So it's one of those things where we're all in the orbit of the conversation, trying to get people to extricate themselves from the current system rather than execute themselves by continuing to be a part of the thing.
And this site?
That's teace.ca. So, I mean, that's a bunch of different stuff. It's like I've written zombie novels as a metaphor for the truth movement. That's kind of like a bunch of people grow up preparing for the zombie apocalypse, and then 20 years later it happens. So that's kind of like a metaphor for what's been going on with all of us. My first feature film, Hold Me, which is about a woman whose job it is to hold and console people who are being voluntarily euthanized. That's there. Play Reality is a book I co-authored with my video game and dream researching mother, because when I grew up playing video games, she wanted to look at the effect that video games were having on consciousness, and she found that playing video games overlapped with lucid dreaming. So I've gone into all kinds of different things. Blindfold, that's a short film I released about 15 years ago now, and that was what first got me on the Corbett Report. And that's telling a narrative, non-confrontational story about a 9/11 widower and his preteen daughter when she gives a presentation about 9/11 truth to her elementary school class. So what I've been doing over the course of my time as an artist is to touch on controversy to make it more accessible to people in palatable little chunks that you can take for yourself, or say you know someone who isn't into conspiracy but they like zombie novels, you can pass along a zombie novel and that gets them in a different road. So it's strategically trying to think of how to reach out to people we know to try and get them in the know rather than trying to bludgeon that into them, because that's just not going to work.
It's just not going to work. All right, awesome, man. We appreciate you, appreciate all your work. Thank you for coming on Weaponized News.
Sure, thanks for having me on, man.
Hopefully we could have you on again with your new project with Passio for sure.
Well, that'll be a few months, but I'll everyone will know when it's out. Yeah,
we'll be keeping an eye on it. Thank you, everybody. Go support his work. Again, the links to all this stuff, they're in the description below, and also Weaponized News Substack channel. As always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Thursday evening, and we'll be back here